What's going on? Victims and villains, if you guys are new to our content, we create content like what you're watching right now, simply to educate and engage individuals like yourselves on mental health awareness and suicide prevention through pop culture. My name's Captain Nostalgia. I am a writer, podcaster, and our film festival director for Horrific Hope. If you guys would like more information regarding more movie reviews like this, podcast, links to our social media, Patreon, how to support, and to also submit your films to our upcoming 2023 season, as well as our mental health resource library. All of that is going to be in the show notes below. Today we're going to be talking about Hustle, the brand new Adam Sandler movie. And I'm going to say this rather blunt statement up front before we get into the synopsis, what I think of this movie. I think, and this could be just me, that Adam Sandler is kind of in a parallel resurgence in his career, the same way that Nicolas Cage is in his. Well, let's talk about Hustle. So in Hustle, Sandler plays a scout for the 76ers who has dreams and ambitions of becoming a coach. Basically, in order to achieve his dreams, he has to find the, quote, missing piece, as the film puts it, to pushing the 76ers to championship territory. The process of that journey actually ends up mentoring a young up-and-coming voice in the NBA. As I mentioned before I got into the synopsis, Sandler has kind of been on this resurgence recently in his career where even the goofier side of his with Hubie Halloween definitely seems to be more in line with the 90s Sandler that kind of made him a star, like Billy Madison, Happy Gilmore, Big Daddy, Little Nicky, things along those lines. And who could forget his career best performance with Uncut Gems? And now with Hustle, Sandler reminds us that he is actually not just a guy that is making these goofy comedies with friends like David Spade and Kevin James, but he is an actor and a tour de force to be taken seriously, and Hustle reaffirms that. Like, I truly don't have enough words to convey how great of a performance Sandler gives here. Like, this definitely is not quite as intense or as captivating as Uncut Gems, but this is definitely probably the best performance outside of Uncut Gems since he has given us since Punch Drunk Love. And I really hope with Uncut Gems and now Hustle, I really hope that this is kind of Sandler saying, you know what, maybe I'm kind of reaching this point in my career where I want to do more dramatic stuff and I really want to lend and impress and potentially even go after the Oscar. Now, I won't say that his performance in Hustle is as good as Uncut Gems, whereas Uncut Gems, he was criminally snubbed of a Best Actor Oscar nomination at the very least for Uncut Gems, but this is probably one of the strongest performances he's given to date. Now, I know I keep coming back to things like Uncut Gems, Punch Drunk Love, and I'm doing this specifically because when you look at the landscape of Sandler's career, he has very, very few dramatic roles. And so if you followed Adam Sandler's career for any amount of time, most people kind of write him off as being the goofy guy that makes dumb comedies with his friends, and that's it. But I really want to emphasize how exceptional Sandler is in this role by comparing it to other standout performances that he's given over the years. And I definitely think that Hustle finds itself beautifully alongside his dramatic performances in Punch Drunk Love, Uncut Gems, Spanglish, and now Hustle. Probably really gonna butcher my attempt at his co-star, Juancho Hernangomez. Somehow you have found this video and I have mispronounced your name. I apologize. My deepest regrets. And if you guys are watching this right now, you guys have been following us for a long time, you know that I'm notoriously terrible at names. I wanted to say the actor's name, but I'm gonna be referring to his performance as Bo Cruz, his character, moving forward. So yeah, Bo Cruz is absolutely delightful in this movie as well. I think that him and Sandler, their mentor-mentee relationship, really anchors this film into some surprisingly emotional states that often give really almost... I'm going to say the actor playing Bo Cruz delivers such a delightful performance. His relationship and chemistry between himself and Sandler are just really well done. And they serve as kind of the emotional foundation for the film. A foundation that yields some surprising results that are both kind of that typical emotional underdog that you see a lot in sports movies like Hustle, but also at the same time with Sandler weaving in comedy, there are some truly unexpected comedy between him and the Bo Cruz actor. And on top of that, there is also some truly emotional moments. Like, there are genuine times where, like, I was very close to tearing up just because of how pure this movie can feel at times. And there's a rawness to this movie that I really appreciate when you're talking about the emotional state of it. Not only will you find yourself laughing on unexpected occasions, but also at the same time, this movie's paced very well. I do have some problems with the pacing. I'll talk about it in just a few minutes. But I think that overall, this movie, just from an emotional standpoint, carries itself extremely well. And let's talk pacing. So for the most part, this movie is paced very well. I do think that it probably suffers from a bloated runtime, and the reason that I say there's a bloated runtime is because my biggest issue with this movie, more than anything else, is how many montages there are. Like, I understand that music montages are kind of like a cornerstone in the sports film genre, and this is probably why you don't see a whole lot of sports films on this channel or on our podcast feeds, because we typically don't talk about them. And I mean, don't get me wrong, we have, but I say with this exception, there are about like the halfway point, there was at least 4 montages in the first hour, and then there's another montage scene that is almost back to back with a montage scene, and it like takes up like a 15 to 20 minute increment. At least it feels that way. Again, I get it. You're trying to tell an underdog story. You're telling a rags to riches story. You're telling, this redemption story for the Sandler character. But all of that is spectacularly done when it's not having the music montages. And that, to me, is kind of my biggest complaint about this movie, is that the runtimes just made the actual runtime feel bloated. But let's end on a happy note. Let's talk about the other performances in this movie. The things that I truly liked about this movie is that no performance is wasted. I feel like there are so many times in sports movies that you walk away and you're like, man, like, Kurt Russell was great in Miracle, but I can't tell you anything else. Or, like, as a kid, I grew up on Angels in the Outfield, and I can tell you about how good and funny Christopher Lloyd was throughout that movie. But again, it's one person in a cast of characters, and the cast just kind of sometimes seems to fade to the side in light of other performances. I want to make sure that when as I'm reviewing Hustle, that's not the case, because this movie is filled with genuinely terrific performances. Ben Foster, for example, plays a wonderful, wonderful antagonist for Sandler. His performances, he's kind of a little bit in the beginning of the movie, not so much the end of the movie, but again, he's really good in this movie. Ben Foster, look how baby he is. Look how young he is right there. Right there. It's 2001. He's bald in this movie. Like, kind of like me. He has a great beard. Looks great in Hustle, but there he is, beginning of his career. Queen Latifah, Kenny Smith, Robert Duvall, and I'll even say that even for such a minor part, Jaleel White shows up and does a pretty good job as well. This cast is truly incredible, and speaking of incredible, let's go to our Rorschach rating scale. Woo. I don't know why I did that. So I'm going to go ahead and give Hustle a 4 out of 5. Again, it's the pacing and everything that kind of holds it back from being a little bit more for me. But this is probably one of Sandler's best movies to date. Performances in this movie are great, and for the most part, the pacing is really good. The story hooks you really well. The emotional beats in this movie just absolutely soar. And this movie is now streaming on Netflix. Let us know in the comments below what you guys thought of this movie, if you guys have seen it so far. If you guys haven't, just comment below and let me know your favorite Adam Sandler movie. And now it's time to talk mental health. If you're new to our channel, we do a segment to end every video called Mental Health Moment. This is where we take a theme of mental health / encouragement and talk about it for just a few moments in hopes to deconstruct the stigma surrounding mental health. For this one, I really want to talk about Community. I think this movie embodies the mental health power of community and what one person believing in another can really accomplish. I'm not gonna say how this movie ends necessarily. I'm just not gonna do that. But I can say that there are definitely so many trials and tribulations throughout the course of this movie that Bo Cruz ends up enduring, and likewise the Adam Sandler character, and it's always kind of the power of Queen Latifah as Sandler's wife in this movie, cheering him and reminding him, or his daughter. And then on the flip side, you have the Bo Cruz and the Adam Sandler camaraderie, and you're really just seeing throughout the course of this film how if one person in a unit is starting to feel less than important, they're constantly the other person is constantly there to remind them of their value and their worth. And I think sometimes in our day-to-day lives, let's just face it, life is busy. If it wasn't for a Google Calendar and the calendar that I have in my office, I would probably just would be going absolutely insane. But that's neither here nor there. It's just to establish the fact that life is busy, and sometimes it takes a lot for us to realize that we just need to slow down and be intentional about the people that we're trying to reach or that are in our community. Because sometimes being intentional and meeting people where they're at has huge implications for their own mental health. Maybe not just for that day, but for the season that they're currently in. For the Sandler-Bo Cruz dynamic in this movie, that belief and that need for community and mentorship, it really not only impacted Bo's life, but also the Sandler character as well. Sometimes truly stopping to believe and encourage someone not only helps their mental health, but ours as well, and there's a dual benefit that comes from it. My encouragement is just to be still and be present, because you truly don't know how much a conversation means to someone. It could end up saving their lives. And with that said, if you or someone you know is watching this right now and you're struggling with suicide, addiction, self-harm, or depression, please consider our mental health resource library in the show notes below. Thank you guys for watching, and hit the subscribe button. Have a good night, guys.